Welcome to Warhammer and Wings, the only podcast where the dice roll hard, the lore runs deep, and the wings come extra spicy. Each episode, we're diving into the mortal realms and the grimdark galaxy of Warhammer, all while arguing over which faction pairs best with buffalo sauce. Spoiler, it ain't the Tau.
Whether you're a veteran general, a law junkie, or you're here for the hot takes and hotter wings, grab your paintbrush and let's get messy because this hobby, like wings, is best enjoyed with friends and a little fire. I'm Will.
And I'm Wayne, let's get into it. Well, let's get into what we're going to talk about this time. I'm here and I'm going to be talking with you guys, well, specifically with you, Will. And I think we're going to be talking about the new release of the Soulblight Gravelords. And we're going to have a little bit of a chat about Warhammer Plus as well, aren't we?
That's it, yeah. We've got the new Soulblight Gravelords box to go over. I know you've been big into that, and Warhammer Plus is new to me, so thought we'd have a discussion around them.
Sounds absolutely fantastic. I know that's going to be definitely a hot take, and perhaps we should have a discussion about some hot talks to go with some of that hot takes around Warhammer Plus. It's quite divisive. Is it? I don't know.
Derisive?
There's a word. There's a word. The beginning with D. People
Derisive,
divide.
maybe.
Who knows? The community is split in half on whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm definitely not going to take it out and keeping that in because this is exactly the tone that we want to go for. Well, you know what you're here for. Oh, and we are going to be talking about some tasty, tasty hot sauce later on as well. So stick around for that. It's going to be a fun segment and possibly a tasty one too.
So, Wayne, on a scale from freshly buried peasant to Vengorian lord in a cape made of skin, how excited were you for this release?
Quite as excited as I am for that joke. I mean, that's gold. I'm loving it. Yeah, I was pretty excited. I think I've talked about this a couple of times in a few different places. And anybody that knows me that's been around me in the past couple of months, all I've done is give a constant countdown to this box coming out. I've been more than a little bit excited, I think, would be something of an understatement.
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, wherever we've spoke, it's all you were talking about while you were waiting for the release. So I'm glad when it finally came to fruition. But yeah, I mean, it's super cool from my perspective, and it isn't even an army of my choice. So you seem pretty happy with it. But yeah, I mean, what do you like about it compared to some of the previous models?
Well, let me tell you, I'm glad you asked. What do I like about it? I like the fact that these specific models, so the Barrow Guard, the Barrow Knights, and the White King on Skeletal Steed, they're replacements for the Black Knights, the Grave Guard, which were, in my opinion, at least, and I know this is completely subjective, were some of the worst looking miniatures that GW had currently still available. I refuse to paint them. I have found proxies where I could. I mean, I hated them, and these just knock it out of the park. They're completely in line with the current Death Rattle range that they released alongside Curse City a couple of years back, and they just look fantastic.
Yeah, I think I echo that sentiment. I think, if you look at the last edition Skellies, it's just a huge improvement. I mean, they look a lot less flimsy. They just look like they've been designed a bit better. But I suppose that lends me, quite nicely into the next question. I mean, how do you rate the build experience of it so far compared to the previous incarnation of these guys?
Oh, dude, massively different. I mean, even compared to the Death Rattle that came in the Curse City box, they were quite finicky and quite delicate. They'd break significant amounts of the time just getting them off the sprue. Not that that was a bad design flaw, it wasn't. It was just like the level of detail, I think, on there and having things a little bit thinner so they looked more realistic. But obviously, it caused problems there where the new sculpts here, I don't know how far in advance Games Workshop work. I think it's like 3 or 4 years. So there was clearly some time differential between when they did the Cursed City skeletons and when they've done these. And it really does show in terms of just how easily they go together. I mean, they're not push fit, but they went together like an absolute dream. I didn't have any breakages on sprue. The box was completely intact. And I've dropped a couple of them already, and I've had no issues with the breaking at all. And in terms of mold lines, they were just, oh my days. I mean, these are genuinely the best GW miniatures I've ever put together. There was hardly any mold lines whatsoever on them. It's just absolutely knocked out of the park as far as I'm concerned with these ones.
Nice. Well, I mean, it bodes well for the future releases that are going to come, if they are still up in the game. But yeah, I mean, from what you told me, it sounds like you managed to put them together super quick as well. So, you know, it sounds like a win-win for you, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I didn't time myself as it were, but I've gone from the box arriving to kind of getting the entire army built, painted, and on the table, now ready for us to play next week in probably less than 7 or 8 hours total, and that was to a reasonable tabletop standard with a few effects on there, so a reasonable amount of OSL on them and such. They'd just been dead straightforward to build. I think in terms of time for each model, the skeletons to get off the screw and built, or maybe what between 5 and 15 minutes, depending on which variant it was to build. It was just sublime to put them together. I think the only finicky one was the White King. There were a couple of the order that you did certain elements of it didn't seem as conducive as doing it in an order that wasn't stipulated in the instructions. But
Hmm.
that's just being super finicky, isn't it? I mean, one person's experience would be completely different to yours if you did it, but
That's it.
it
Suppose that
it,
is subjective.
it was still super fast to get them from sprue into a paintable state.
Mm,
You're looking at an hour and a half, 2 hours for the box kind of thing. It was no.
that's good. So, I mean, considering you're putting together that quick, what was your painting strategy? Have you gone for super gritty and grimdark or full on Saturday morning cartoon skeleton vibes? What have you gone for?
I don't do anything that's not grimdark. If it's grimdark is a sunny day for me. If it's darker, the better. So I'd actually already painted or done the painting guide for this a while back over on my YouTube channel as well. So I'll put a link in the description or something for that. But it is a fairly, I mean, it's a tabletop standard paint job that I've done on them. It's not display quality by any means, but it is a darker aesthetic I've gone. So I've kind of followed what was done lore wise, because I didn't know what my actual Soulblight army composition is going to look like overall. The way that I've built the entire army is that I've got enough. Well, I've got everything, so it allows me to kind of like lean into whichever army build I want to go for. So I wanted to have a differentiation between these and the Death Rattle, but make them so they were still looking consistent. So obviously, I had a consistent basing theme, but where the Death Rattle, I went with silvers and actual bones, like a bone color and just the glowing eyes. These I've gone for a purple color to give them more of a regal feel. So the kind of like in the hierarchy of things, purple tends to be seen as more regal, I suppose, doesn't it? When you look at things, it's in line with the reds that I kept on the overall army color. And I brought in the blues that I'd used on the vampires as well by making the bones look like they're glowing. Because these being whites, in my head, I don't know if it's something that I got from the Lord of the Rings movie back in the day, that spectral kind of teal glow kind of thing. I wanted the armor to look like it was physical there in the real world, and the horse's armor and the banners and the weapons and stuff, but almost being held by like spectral skeletons that were kind of, this necromantic force kind of giving it that. So it was a dead straightforward paint scheme. It was basically some armor, um, went for a gold burnished kind of look on there. Then everything else as desaturated as possible so that OSL effect that I did on the bones would really pop. I've not gone for any blood or anything like that on these. A little bit on the weapons, a little bit of splattering, but no too kind of grotesque. So it is, I suppose, a little bit less grimdark than I would normally do, but it does fit in with that wider aesthetic that I've gone for with this army, which was being very much a playable army. So it's all about like expediting that painting process.
Yeah, well, I mean, it sounds cool. Definitely excited to see what they look like on the table, and no doubt to see you thrash me with them at some point, which will probably be next week. But I suppose if we think, you've got the entire range already, so what would you say? Is this more of a solid starting point if you were looking to get into the Soulblight Gravelords, or is it better as an expansion for existing Gravelord players? Is it a bit of both? What do you think?
I think it depends what type of army it is you're wanting to build. I mean, reading through the new battle tome, there is a number of archetypes in there, and you can certainly take the army in a number of different ways that you want. I mean, this being literally a skeleton box kind of lets you lean into that sort of large, horde based shambling army that is, just resilient, keeps getting up. So I would say, it's a good starting point. It's got the spearhead in there, you got the battle tome, but it's not going to give you a vampire army.
Mm,
There's
okay.
nothing in the box that's going to lean you down there. This is very much an infantry um, tar pit kind of. It's more elite, obviously, than the death rattle, and the damage output is pretty reasonable for what we assume is going to be the points. We haven't got the points yet in the app until the general release of the battle tome. But if anything's to go by of the previous release, the it's more cost effective to take the Barrow Knights and the Barrow Guard than it is to take the Death Rattle. So,
Okay. That makes sense. I mean, horrible pun incoming, but it sounds like they've got some meat on the bones there.
I mean, you could say that. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to seeing, how they look and how they play. Yeah, I mean, it's not something I've collected myself or ever tried painting, but I've seen some of the bits that you've done with what you've got already, and they look super cool. And it really leans into that aesthetic that you're looking for, probably more than what I look for. So, yeah, super excited to see it, mate.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting change to what I mean. We've predominantly been playing Spearhead, haven't we? I mean, I think we've exclusively been playing Spearhead at the moment, so we've not taken to the board in a full fat game of AOS yet. But I think looking at the rules just for Spearhead is quite a nice balance between what's currently there in the Bloodcraved Hunt Spearhead, which is very much all about the mobility and the utilization of the Blood Knights to kind of get in and be the heavy hitters, whereas this, it seems more paced
Okay.
somewhat. I mean, yes, we still do have the Knights in there, but they don't seem as, as aggressive, perhaps, as the Blood Knights. So I think tactically it's gonna be a very different gameplay experience for me, even though there is obviously the parity of having skeletons in both of them. They seem like very different types, so I'm really excited to see how that works.
Yeah, I mean, me too. You said it. We've been predominantly playing Spearhead for however long, and I think you were in a really good rhythm with what you were playing with. But I'm excited to see how these guys play, and if it lends itself better for me and my Fire Slayers, or if it's worse. I'm just excited to see what you do with them. Really.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they cope with some of the shenanigans that your guys have got there. And it will be interesting to see, in fact, as we start to kind of diversify the armies that we play with, how certainly different matchups work out and how that will lean into, I suppose, the fuller fat experience of AOS, where we've got that more customized experience of like, oh, right, this unit I need in this kind of build out to deal with this kind of threat from you, which I think is one of the appealing things about the Soulblight, because there is that versatility inside of the faction to go with multiple different army builds, where some other factions I don't think necessarily have that real amount of customizability that you see with Soulblight. I might be wrong, because I'm not an expert in AOS at all. I'm just coming out from what I see inside of the range and the rule of cool, but other armies, they a lot of them seem to be kind of one trick ponies. Yes, there's some variation there, but I feel like with what I've got here, I can go down multiple different, either aggressive or passive kind of armies that are going to give me the tools to deal with everything. Certainly, as a new player coming in as well, having just the one force that I can concentrate on, but play in totally different ways, so it's not getting boring for my opponent as I'm kind of grok that army. I think is really good.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think it gives you a lot of flexibility to try different things, try different combinations of units. If you think about me playing Fire Slayers, I don't want to say it's limited, even though it is limited. I mean, I'm quite happy with the aesthetic of that army and what they bring, and how you feel them on the table. It's all foot soldiers, isn't it? There's no cavalry, no nothing. And I quite like the simplicity because I'm coming at this newer to AOS than you are. I've never played any tabletop wargaming before. I've been, casual fan of this for a long time, but I've never played. So I think I looked out a little bit because I chose that spearhead because I thought that looked cool. But I think it's lending itself nicely to me learning the game with a fairly simplistic force. So yeah, but it's definitely cool to see, you know, some of the things that you do and some of the plans that you've got going forward. And, I'll be able to see how you chop and change to deal with certain aspects of what I can do. And yeah, there's going to be a lot of interplay between the two, which I'm looking forward to seeing.
I need to get some dead dwarf bits for my bases, don't I?
You definitely do. Yeah. Surprised that hasn't been done already. I mean, I'm sure I could smash up some skeletons from somewhere, but it won't look as good as a chopped up dwarf on your base.
Tasty, tasty dwarf.
So what do you think to the new battle time then? I haven't had a look at it yet.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. So, as I said earlier, I was really, really looking forward to this, and I still am really into it. However, I just finished reading the third edition Battle Tome again because, well, I'm new to the whole Soulblight thing, so I wanted to get some of the history of the faction, and I was really looking forward to hopefully getting some expanded lore and narrative, some information about the characters in this new Battle Tome, and there is some there. And it's a fairly weighty one as well, and it's by no means skimping on content. It's not, but it just doesn't have as much in it as I was hoping it would do. Some of the artwork, however, is I mean glorious. The maps that are in there. I think there's one or two is just it's really nice. I'm absolutely there for that. And as I say, the general artwork inside of it as well is really, really good. Second to none. I'm super happy with it. It's just that narrative piece, you know what I mean? When you really want to kind of get to like sink your teeth into it almost, and it's
Yeah,
no pun,
I
but
do.
it isn't as it isn't as deep as I was hoping it was going to be.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
suppose though you could fall back and, I'm assuming you've read, is it The Hollow King?
yes, yes,
You've got
absolutely.
that sort of law to fall back on, but I do know what you mean about wanting, you know, to use your term to sink your teeth into something. I completely get that. Yeah, as I say, I haven't seen much. You sent me a picture of the map actually, I think, didn't you? Just say,
Mhm.
look at this, it's really cool. But that's as much as I've seen so far.
I think what it does have though, and I wonder if this is a business decision from Games Workshop's kind of perspective, is it does feel like they've given you enough where you have an understanding of the army, you have an understanding of the main characters and all of the named characters. There's bits of fluff about them all, and then on their battle profiles, it's there. I suppose what I was looking for is, as you've rightly said there, I can go into Black Library, and that's exactly what I am doing. So I'm reading stuff from the world that was, listening to a lot of audiobooks there to kind of like immerse myself into the background of the army. But there's certainly enough inside of this battle tome to kind of give you a grounding as a gamer, just in just there to kind of give you a flavor of what the army is about, enough of the background where you don't feel like you're completely like, "Oh, I don't know where any of these guys come from. I don't know
Yeah.
why they're supposed to look like this and why the play style's like this." That is all there. I'm being overly harsh in what I wanted, I suppose. So yeah, I think of the battle tomes that I've got so far for this edition, I would say this probably is very close to being the best for me. I think the Slaves to Darkness one as well was very, very good, which I also own. And I've got the Stormcast as well. Now, obviously, the Stormcast are the poster boys, aren't they? I think the thing that they're always going to have the most effort put into them, and that was a really nice battle tome, and I enjoyed reading that, even though I'm not a huge fan of the Stormcast. Um, but I think there's a balance between what I felt was more informative in the Slaves to Darkness battle tome compared to this. Whereas I think the overall layout and the progression of this how succinct some of the information is. So it's kind of counter to what I've just said. This does flow better as a gaming book and as a gaming aid, and it gives me all the information that I need in a sensible manner. Even though there's not much different in terms of layout from the other books, but it does feel like there's been a progression in this book as well. So, yeah, I think still I'm leaning towards the Slaves to Darkness as the best battle tome so far. But when I say that, I'm not speaking about it from a gaming perspective. I don't know which one of them is the stronger army. Um, and I don't think, to be honest, for our level of play, it matters. We're never going to be, or I'm certainly never going to be a competitive gamer at that level where I care about the meta. I'm a fluffy player anyway. So, yeah, I think overall it's really nice. I'm glad I definitely got this version of it in the box set because I'm quite finicky and I preferred the cover on this compared to the standard one. Um, and it does feel really nice. I know this is a really odd thing to say, but it's almost got like I mean, it's literally on my desk next to me now, and I'm sat here stroking it. It's got like a velvety feel to the cover. It's not rubberized, but it just feels nice, you know?
Yeah. That's
Um,
because no, I mean, I completely get that. I mean, last time we were together, my kill team book had just turned up and we were looking at that and we were commenting on the quality, the physical quality of the book itself. So I totally get it. But just going back to what you said, I think it makes sense from a business perspective to not have, all the lore included because I suppose it naturally points you in the direction of the Black Library. So you go and buy more, go and download the audiobooks and, you get the lore that way. So they make more money. So I do get it.
yeah, totally. And I think I would rather have this as well because I know from reading some of the comments about the 40K recent codexes and such that there's been a lot of copy and pasting from the previous edition to the current edition in terms of the lore stuff.
Okay.
And okay, I can genuinely get that. I think it's a sensible way to have um, a separation between what is a book for gamers and ones that are there for more narrative players. So I think putting the lore focused elements, especially the progressional lore of the setting at large, makes sense in campaign books where you don't necessarily need those for your rules to play the tabletop game, as it were. And then you can always minimize the amount of expenditure for the gamers, can't they? And perhaps this is where
Yeah.
Games Workshop are being sensible. I mean, yes, we sink a lot of money into this hobby, and we will buy each and every battle tome for our army for each edition for as long as we're playing it. But I do think as well, like, as you've said, pushing people into different media streams. And I think this is something that we're going to talk about later on, isn't it? When we talk about Warhammer Plus, there are better
Mhm.
ways of getting all of that information into a place rather than just copying and pasting it year on year. When what you basically want is the battle profiles for the things. There are better ways to do that. So I can kind of get this reduction in some of the stuff inside of the battle tomes, and if that is what they're doing, I'm not going to slate them for that because it's a better way longer term where I'm going to have less on my bookshelf, but more relevant things on my bookshelf that I want to look at over time.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
So yeah, all in all, I think this box set was a reasonable box set. Um, as a jumping on point for the army, I think if you wanted to lean into skeletons, absolutely do it. Um, if you're not bothered about the battle tome right now and you weren't just like chomping at the bit to get your hands on it like I was, there's nothing in here. I mean, obviously the value proposition is better, especially if you get it from a third party. If you can still get your hands on it, I'm sure you can. Is a reasonable saving, but it's certainly not one of the best army boxes. I don't think, unless
Okay.
you're really into skeletons. But I'm happy with it, and for me, that's what I wanted. I've got rid of the derpy sculpts that I never wanted to paint, and now I've got, until the other stuff is released, a complete Soulblight Gravelord set of everything that's legal.
Proper job then. Sounds like successful.
Yeah, yeah, I'm a happy chappy for now.
Good
I
stuff.
can play a different army next week,
I'm
or
looking forward
a
to seeing
different
it.
spearhead.
Difference, yeah. Well, maybe I'll have better luck against this one. We'll see.
Hot take then. Warhammer Plus. the subscription service that you either love or you hate, seemingly. I've been a subscriber now for, I think this is going to be my second year, second full year. I'm coming up to, I believe now, and I don't hate it. I really like the Age of Sigmar app. I think for 50 quid a year and the three mini, you either sell it on or you keep it. I originally subscribed to Warhammer Plus because there was a Soulblight Gravelord model last year which I wanted, and I grabbed that. And I've experienced Warhammer Plus. I've experienced the app now, or one of the apps. And for me, I think the value proposition is there, especially since we started playing weekly as well. I'm getting way more use out of the app. And yeah, I know that I've recommended it to you, didn't I? Really, it
Did
kind of like a hard sell, I suppose. Of like, get the app, get the app, get it. It's good. But when I was talking about the app, I was actually meaning Warhammer Plus. So from your point of view, Will, somebody that's come in pretty cold and don't
yeah.
know as much about Warhammer Plus, you didn't really know what all of the big air quotes benefits
No,
of
I
it
really
was.
didn't.
What do you think of it? What do you make about it?
To be
Give us your
honest,
opinion.
yeah, I mean, I echo your sentiment. I think, value for money is there. I'm quietly impressed with it from what I've seen so far. I will be honest, I've had a look at the AOS side of things because that's what we're likely to be starting to play. And I know that's what we've spoken about before, and that's how you sort of convinced me to give it a try. But realistically, I've been watching a lot of the video content to start off with, and I didn't really have much of an expectation going into it, but I'm pretty impressed with what I've seen so far. I mean, it was your recommendation. You said check out the Astartes video first of all. So first thing I did, watch that on your recommendation, and yeah, that kind of set the tone for me. To be honest, I feel like, excuse me, there was a lot to like in that video. It just stood out to me. Like I liked the animation quality. It had a real sense of depth. Um, Really small things that I noticed. You really got like there was a bit where you really felt the thump of the psyker's head against the floor and the exploding rounds, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It was done a lot better than I thought it would be, considering there is very little speech in that video. But as soon as that video finished, like I think I messaged you, didn't I? And I was like, I'm so good. There isn't a second part of this yet. But no, I watched that and I went straight into Angels of Death, to be honest. So yeah, that was my first impressions were good because that's the first thing I did was watch that video.
And it is such a good thing to start off with. I mean, you can see why Games Workshop employed the guy. You would do, wouldn't you? Because I mean, it is astounding. I saw that before it was a Warhammer Plus exclusive when it was just up on YouTube. And it is astounding. So interestingly, I think I think his motivations were a little bit different for joining Warhammer Plus. I mean, I didn't have anybody kind of like not strong arming me, and I didn't really kind of give you the hard sell on that. I was just like, this is actually really useful for us in our situation here. Um,
Yeah.
but I've not watched as I don't think I've watched as many of the shows on there as you. I don't watch. I've certainly not watched any of the painting stuff on there because it's just not my style of painting. So I've kind of not been into that. I've had a couple of experiences with the Law Masters stuff, which I don't dislike. I know that there's mixed opinions out there, but I've not been adverse to it.
No, to be honest, yeah, I haven't looked at any of the painting stuff yet, to be honest. I'm sure I will at some point. But yeah, I did have a note about the Law Masters thing. I like that kind of thing. I think if you're looking at it from a beginner's perspective on the law front, I think it's definitely a really good thing. If you're coming into this hobby, you subscribe to this app, you've got the Law Master stuff there. It's a good way of learning without having to read or buy, 10 physical codexes or whatever. It's a really good way to get that overview. And, some of the videos are fairly long. I watched the Imperial Guard one, super long one. I knew a lot of it anyway, but I was just sort of flicking through just to get a feel for it. I was really impressed. I can't remember the guy's name that was presenting, narrating it, but I really liked his style. Yeah, I thought it was a lot slicker than I thought it would be, to be honest. similar with a lot of the voice acting. If we go to, one of the animations, Angels of Death, for example, I kind of expected maybe a bit of amateur high school theater in power armor, but yeah, surprised at how good the acting was, to be honest. You know, I thought it was gonna be a bit cheesy with the black and white style with the red accents. I thought it was just gonna be a bit of an edgy filter, but it really gave me a bit more of a grimdark sense. Like, I'm only a few episodes in, but I'm kind of invested in that already. So yeah, I mean, for the price, there's a lot to like for me. I feel like I could go in and check out some of the Lawmaster stuff, maybe stick that on in the background while I'm doing some painting. I definitely want to give some of the battle reports a try as well. You know, we're having to think about playing Kill Team down the line, so it'd be a good way for me to just familiarize myself with it rather than reading a book, seeing some stuff in action. So yeah, there's a lot to like from that app.
Yeah, and I think you've touched on something there as well. So, Kill Team. Let's talk about Kill Team, shall we? So, when we when I was talking about the app earlier, I was specifically talking about the iOS app. I can't talk about the 40K version of the app because I've never used it, and I don't
Me
know.
neither.
But the iOS one, I like how it's structured. I've liked it since the update. I find it really palatable compared to some of the other free alternatives out there and some of the cheaper alternatives. But whatever, I'm happy to sink 50 quid into my subscription for that for the year. The Kill Team app, however, I was super excited when I saw that, and I was like, I loved the previous edition of Kill Team. It's the game of Games Workshops that I've played the most, the system that I'm most familiar with. I genuinely adored it, and I was so happy. I thought this was going to be something like KT Dash or you know something actually useful. It's a PDF viewer. It's literally a PDF viewer. I was angry. Will I was
Yeah, I
my
mean,
god.
it is a PDF viewer, and let's face it, it's not even a good PDF viewer. But it seemed that was a bit of a shock to me because I all I hear about Kill Team is how highly regarded it is. I've never played it. These are my first steps into it, and then seeing the Kill Team app was a huge letdown for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like it's even there was what I'm trying to say is Kill Team, as you've said, is pretty highly regarded. It gets a lot of play, it gets a lot of love. They're using it as almost like a vehicle to highlight certain new model ranges, yada yada, yada. All of this other stuff you would think, and it being 40K, they put some effort into it. I could see this being a thing if it was Warcry, which again I love. I'm not slating
Yeah.
Warcry by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not. I could get this that's got wait, a very small player base comparatively, but this is so bad. So I mean, it's like, what did the placement student do it, and it wasn't even a good placement student? Or who did this? Was it somebody's mum?
It just
Is it like my first app?
it feels like an afterthought to me, and it was a surprise to be honest. But yeah, it's a strange one. But maybe it's something that they are working on. I don't know how long it's looked like that. If it's a new edition, if it is something they're actively working on. But at the same time, I'm super happy with the Kill Team book itself. So I'm
Totally
okay.
agree with
I'm
you there.
okay with that.
I would like and I can see why they don't have the same level of polish across all the things. I mean, AOS and 40K are obviously the 2 main franchises, 40K even more so, but I'm gonna assume there is s it's the same engine kind of powering those 2 apps. But you would think in terms of a value proposition to belay people complaining about Warhammer Plus, and it does get a lot of hate. It still gets a lot of hate with it being a subscription service, but that's the world that we live in now. Microtransactions are a thing, subscription services are a thing, and as we
Yeah.
talked about in the segment earlier, I think I would rather pay subscription to the app and even like a transactional fee for unlocking additional features in the app for my armies rather than having to buy a battle tome that I'm not going to use. Because let's face it, when we play now, I'm going to use the app. So everything that I need for
Yeah.
spearheads in there, everything, So if every cycle of AOS, I have to buy another 30 quid code or £20 code, let's say, for
Mm.
updating the war scrolls in the app on top of my 50 quid a year sub. I would do that rather than having to buy a battle tome. and I would rather spend that additional 10 quid. I'd rather put another 20 quid to it and buy a campaign book or a lore book that's progressional,
Yeah.
be it about the entire setting or a faction, or faction interactions where it's got like a couple of factions in some type of campaign setting that gives me more lore for the army that I'm interested in. I would rather do that and then have a nice set of books on my bookshelf that I could revisit over time than pay for
Yeah.
something with just outdated battle scrolls that are outdated as soon as they go to print the majority of the time. You go to the app anyway, so
Yeah.
it's like
This is
I
true. I mean, you've had to make, manual notes in, your Spearhead book, haven't you, for when we're playing? So it kind of takes the pressure off having to do that, and it stops you having to cart around a book when you come round to mine and we're playing. So yeah, I think, yeah, overall, I think value for money for me, it's there. I can certainly understand why some people are, you know, a bit wary about paying for another subscription service because let's face it, we've all got tons, whether it's Netflix or whatever. We all use a lot of them, and sometimes you don't want to add something on. Let's face it, it's an expensive hobby anyway, but I mean, I feel like it's justified from the content that I'm getting out of it. But again, this is me coming at this as a relative newcomer to the hobby, but I'm finding it super helpful. So, I'm happy to pay it for now. But, it does lead me into a question that I did want to ask where you were saying you'd rather, pay X and Y for this additional thing. I did want to ask if you could pitch to the Warhammer Plus team, like if you had the chance, I don't know, give me a show idea that you'd pitch off top of your head. Think maybe Keeping Up with the Custodes or
keeping up with the
Cal Scott
custodians.
Talent, I don't know, or something daft.
Do you know what? I think there's a couple of shows that you could do that would be really cool on there. I'd like to see. Oh man, I can think. Right, so in keeping with the rest of the episodes, I do think that you could do something around Kado because I think he's a really interesting, flawed character and would make a great protagonist. But
Yeah.
I think, as an ongoing series, that would be very interesting, but I do think there's opportunity for some more niche one-offs that really kinda gives you an insight into some of the other elements. So thinking about 40K specifically, so I'm a huge Dark Angels fan. That's what my interest is in the 40K universe. I would like to see a Dark Angels story that is the backdrop, but viewed through the eyes of the Watchers in the Dark.
Oh, that's
So just
interesting.
yeah, just some, like, random interactions that kind of, like, I don't want them to tell us anything about the Watchers in the Dark, like, I don't want ever to find too much out about Yoda in Star Wars,
Hmm.
but I think
Some
as a
things are better kept
vehicle
a mystery.
yes, but I do think as a vehicle for kind of, like, finding out more about the individuality of races in that universe, be it Dark Angel or whoever, um, to do so with those characters as the backdrop and view it through the eyes of somebody else, so you're not giving it's not like the adventures of Lazarus or,
Yeah.
Asmodai or anything like that. They're there,
Something
they
that
exist,
isn't
but it's the
something that
day-to-day
isn't
drudgery viewed.
Yeah, I get it. Something that isn't just Space Marines, Space Marines, Space Marines, the usual stuff that we always see. It's a departure from that. I like that idea.
Yeah. I don't think that there's something about the 40K setting that's not there in AOS, so I think, yeah, as much as I would love to see something around Kado or perhaps, like an episodic Brindle, um kind of series done where he's jumping through different almost like Quantum Leap, but with Grombrindle,
Yeah.
would be great. I think seeing more stories set from the every person's perspective of the fantastical in 40K adds more weight to the absolute terror of the universe, where it's not the threat of chaos or the Tyranids come into your world. It's that day to day, but seeing all of the other stuff in the background gives real weight to it. Because when you think about the size of the galaxy, the Milky Way, Space Marines are going to be pretty rare,
Yeah.
given like you know all of the things you would assume are going to be pretty rare. So having that grounding and something you can relate to. I mean, just how vile is the idea of corpse starch? as the main food stuff. I mean, it's messed up, man.
Yeah. Didn't think about it until you put it like that, but yeah, I think there's a lot to be said. Yeah, chances are the average person's never gonna see a space marine in their lifetime in that universe, are they? So,
Exactly.
y yeah, that's a good point.
But what about you? What would you do?
Um, Probably not something as out there as you're thinking. I mean, you know, I'm huge into Gaunt's Ghosts. I'd love to see something in animated form, maybe, even if it's just a couple of shorts. I will soak up as much content for Gaunt's Ghost as I can physically take. I really like the Imperial Guard. I like the mentality of, these guys are seemingly expendable. And I
Would it be
think
a 12-minute episode?
that's a fair point. It could be. That could be a good hook for it. But no, it kind of ties in with what you're saying about, just the abject horror of the universe itself. The life of somebody in the guard, man, it's tough, it's short, it's grim. These guys aren't these highly trained warriors that aren't scared of anything. These are just, young men. And you would be terrified, wouldn't you? I think if you wanted to lean into that horror side of things, that could be a good way of going about it. But I'm sure I'll have some more ideas after I, get some more content out of it. But I kind of like what they're doing already. I understand why, it's quite Space Marine heavy. I get that. I'm not the biggest Space Marine fan in the world, you know, but I get why they're doing it. But yeah, ask me again in 6 episodes' time when I've digested a lot more content, and I might have some better ideas.
That's fair. I think a lot of people would love to see guard stuff. I mean, it's not for me, but
Yeah.
yeah, I can see why that would be popular. I
Yeah.
almost certainly would be surprised for them not to have something appearing.
Yeah, I mean, they do have some guard stuff on there, don't they? But I think I'd like to see some specific stuff for Gaunt's Ghost because I'm just a Dan Abnett fanboy, I think.
I've got to admit, he is one of my favorite authors inside of the
Yeah.
Black Library. Yeah, yeah,
It's
I
hard
do
it's
enjoy
it's
it.
hard to it's hard not to like his stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, it is pretty good.
But no, all in all, yeah, I think value for money for Warhammer Plus, I'm there for it. I think it seems to me like it's super helpful for newcomers. I don't know. I kind of don't feel like I am a newcomer in some ways. I'm a newcomer to playing. I'm not a newcomer to the lore as a whole, but there's enough there for me to refresh on some of the lore that I might not have read about in a few years or, you know, all that side of thing. But it gives me a new perspective on playing. Really looking forward to seeing some of the battle reports, as I said, to get my head around a few more of the intricacies. And yeah, I can see it could be super helpful for newcomers and, anyone really. But depends if you're willing to pay the money. I certainly am.
That's I think in the larger scheme of things, perhaps if they utilize some of the digital delivery that they can inside of the apps a little bit more and change their pricing model and make people a little bit less adverse to it. I do think as a value proposition there is a lot of stuff there. Granted, everybody's not going to get complete value from it. Not everybody wants to read stuff that's outdated for law reasons or has that much of an interest in it. But I think even if you're looking at it from a gamer's perspective and it's solely the apps and the point updates and stuff that you want, I don't feel that it's that bad. But I guess you've got to marry up that cost, if that is specifically what you're using it for, with the amount that you play perhaps per week, and look at it in that way. But
Yeah.
I do think ultimately it's going to be the way that we will consume and be delivered those updates going forward, and that's just the way of the world now. My only concern, and it's not really a concern, but I think there is something here that's worth us just touching on. One of the reasons, like how we ended up chatting in the first instance, was the removal of some of that technology and wanting to interact with people. Having the need to have a phone with you or a tablet all the time can perhaps get in the way of that interaction with somebody else. It can take away some of the concentration. Again, I don't want to I can't speak about the tournament thing because 'cause I've never been to a tournament in that respect, and I've never really looked at how people interact when they're playing. But going from how we converse when we're playing and a 45-minute, a 2-hour game can take 6, 7 hours because we are enjoying ourselves and we are having interactions around what we're doing. Granted, we'll be talking about Warhammer stuff, but I think there is something there with this digital delivery that you kind of eventually become reliant on that. However, to play devil's advocate with myself, sorry, I don't mean to keep, stopping you from your pain. Everybody else that I talk to seems to have an like, a memory where they just, "This rule was updated," and it's in their head straight away. I've kind of started to get that with my spearhead stuff where I don't have to look at every single stat in the book, and I can do it from memory. So, that's still an argument, isn't it? How you get that into your head in the first instance to allow you to have those social interactions and putting in the reps. Perhaps I'm talking nonsense altogether. I don't
No,
know. Just my
I
take.
I I don't think you are. I think for me, it's the repetition element. It just comes hand in hand when you've rolled X amount of dice for this many times, and you know what you're looking for on it, and the repetition side of things helps. I think for me though, there is a big difference between having something digitally and then having something tangible in your hands. We were talking about something completely different, about buyer's guilt when you're buying something digital. I think we're talking about downloading computer games, weren't we? We're talking about Xbox games, and it isn't the same buying a digital download as it is buying a physical copy of something. So I don't think it'll ever fully replace the books. I'm glad that you still have the choice where you can go and buy the physical media rather than paying a subscription to have it virtually. I think there's a time and a place for both. I think I'm looking at Warhammer Plus from more of the video content side of things and having it more as a handy resource if, let's say, I forgot to bring my book to your house or whatever, or just looking at something for as a quick reference. I don't think it'll ever replace the books for me. I like having a book. I like, putting my little dividers in the pages so I can flick between. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's because I'm an old man. I'm not sure, but I think there's an argument for both sides. But I think the two can coexist together. And for 50 quid a year, I get that. To some people it might be a lot of money. To some people it's not a lot of money. I break it down to this is how much it's going to be a month. How much would that cost me when I'm out buying the inevitable amount of coffees that I buy, or you know all that kind of things. Put it into relative terms, I think it's a good deal, personally.
That's fair, but that's only what we think.
Yeah.
Why don't you guys let us know what you think? Drop us a comment, send us a message, find us on the socials, and all of that good stuff. It'd be really interesting to know what everybody else kind of thinks about this. Are you into it? Do you actually think it's overpriced? I mean, yeah, give us a shout. I'd be really interested to know, and perhaps it'll something we'll pick up in a couple of episodes' time, and we'll revisit that. So reach out, let us know, and let's have a follow up conversation.
Yeah, and let us know, the kind of videos that you'd like to see on there.
Absolutely. So, Will, we had the idea for this segment, and we're going to call it the Source Codex, and we're going to have this in all of the shows going forward, I think, aren't we?
I think so, yeah. I mean, it ties into what we're all about, our love of Warhammer and hot wings.
It's making me want hot wings right now, just even saying it. So, would you like to tell the gentle listeners what we're actually going to do in this comedically titled segment that we spent far too much time talking about what we're going to call, and it has amused you greatly?
It has, yeah. I mean, this is just a bit of a light-hearted way. We're just gonna have a think about the synergy between certain characters in Warhammer and what that would relate to in terms of a hot sauce. What kind of hot sauce would this character be? It's that simple. It's not very deep.
Yeah, yeah. It's not very deep, but we do like hot sauce and we do like Warhammer. So keeping in line with the overarching theme of this episode being Soulblight, let's talk about the blades of the Hollow King? Is it Hollow King? It is Hollow King. I've literally just finished reading the book, second one. So yeah, Blades of the Hollow King. So this is not going well, is it? Kado Ezekiel and his underling Sisandra and Aurelius with his two-headed snake Kenestrix. Kenestrix, I
Mm.
think it's Kenestrix.
Tricks, yeah.
Um, let's start off with good old Kado. What do you think he would be into hot sauce wise?
Um, I'd say off the top of my head, something with a bit of a fiery bite that mellows out pretty quickly to an even heat. Just simmering there under the surface. Nothing that's going to blow your head off. Yeah,
I think
something just something down the middle. Yeah,
it's a good insight. I think he's got a bit of a beast inside there, and I think it would just like be something that he could temper pretty fast. He's got a quick temper. I mean, I know you're not as much of a Soulblight kind of guy as me, but you will be once I bring this regiment of renown to the table. By the way, but he is my favorite character in AOS. So yeah, he kind of like he goes he goes off on one a bit, and then just turns into a bit of a murder vampire and just yeah. But then he's back to being, like, pretty chill, just talking to his rings, man, just talking to his rings. So I think something that just, like, come comes in, builds up to, like, a fiery crescendo, hits hard, hits
crescendo.
fast,
I like
but
that.
then, like, just mellows out and he's just like, "I maybe shouldn't have murdered that entire army, but I did. And it's done now, it's done. I'm just gonna step back and just acknowledge that that was something I did, and I'm never gonna do it again until it has another bite of that wing." So I'm
Yeah, that's a fair point. All right. So if we're starting off with Kado there, what about Sisander? Is that how you say it? Sisander?
Sisandra,
Sisandra, sorry,
yeah,
Sisandra.
I think
What
it's
are your
Sisandra
thoughts?
anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah. She's a bit hot-headed, no pun intended in there, so,
definitely
she
pun intended.
the legit wasn't that time. Um, she I think with her, she's she comes across as even though she's not, she comes across as a petulant teen, but she's obviously several hundred years old. I don't know. I want to say just like just hot all the way through. It's
Yeah.
just gonna hit you hard and be unapologetic. Something that's not got any flavor is just it's just pain. It's
Just
just pain.
pain,
It
just
makes you
there for
cry.
heat.
Yeah, and that's what she comes across as a character. She's just like she's a bit whingy, a bit whining, like, "Oh, what?" It's like, "Look, you wanted this, just accept it. You
Yeah,
you you knew what you're getting into," and I think that's where she would be hot sauce wise. I think it's just gonna be like, just burn. It's it's
yeah,
it's like one of those challenges, like a comedy hot sauce that's like
yeah.
even beyond like the bomb kind of level hot sauce should be up there. It's just pain and suffering.
Made for pain, not for pleasure.
Yeah, yeah. That's where I think she would be. I feel like we should put like our hot sauce recommendations in there with it rather than just giving like an overview. But I think we'll have to perhaps start taking notes on a Thursday night when we're splashing the hot sauces, so we can do that.
Yeah, that's a good shout. I mean, we've both got plenty in the fridges, haven't we? So
Oh yeah,
we'll bring that in next week.
and okay, so the final one of the triumvirate, Aurelius.
Yeah, I think this one's gonna be fairly black and white. It's gotta be a Naga Viper based sauce because it's snake, right? There's no two ways about it. Just a straight up hot Naga Viper sauce. No frills.
There's
That's
two
what it
heads
is.
about it.
Two heads about it. Okay, so double strength, double heat. Yeah, double heat Naga Viper based hot sauce. It's gonna burn. It's gonna burn. What you see is what you get with that one. Similar to Sisandra, I guess, but definitely Naga Viper forward.
See, I see where we're going with the snake funds here, but I don't know. There's something about Aurelius. It's just whingy.
Yeah,
It's just whingy. Yeah, I think I think if he behind closed doors, perhaps he'll like when he's out there. chatting with Kado and Sandra, he's like bigging up. He's like, "Oh yeah, I'm into my hot sauces. You know, it's like I'm raising the dead. I'm talking to Neferata. You know, she can smash some wings, and she is loving the hot sauce. But nobody ever sees him eat these like ridiculous hot wings. And then he's in his little tent or wherever he's hanging out at night, and he gets something, and he's looking at it, and it's not even like sriracha sauce. It's like
He's just got
sweet
a
honey mustard.
oh,
Ah,
I was gonna say bottle of Cholula, but you're going really
ah.
weak.
Oh yeah, the guy is like super. He ha the man literally has no sauce,
Alright.
and I think that's
Talk's a
reflected
big
in his
game.
sculpt as well. I mean, if you need to rock around with a double-headed snake kind of thing, that was
Mm. Oh, overcompensating maybe.
it. Well, you never know. It
Okay.
could well be. It could well be.
Alright. Well, we've got polarizing takes on that one, but I think both points are valid.
We do. But what do you guys think? Would our picks there meet with your expectations of tasty hot sauces for the Blaze of the Hollow King? Let us know. And yeah, we'll. In fact, I tell you what, as well as just letting us know, why don't you send us some suggestions of characters that we want to discuss? Some random obscure characters from AOS, 40k, and Necromunda lore that we can have a quick read up about, and then we can talk about what kind of hot sauce it'd be in. So,
Bonus points if anybody has any suggestions for Mortarion.
ooh,
There's something funny there, wouldn't there?
he'd have to slurp it from a straw as well, wouldn't it?
It'd have to be green,
Ooh, like a green moho.
potentially.
Ooh,
I
I do
kinda feel
like
like
green moho.
it wouldn't be tasty though, would it? It would be vile.
I mean, yes, yes, but maybe there's something. I feel like I don't know if it's just the green thing, but I feel like there'd be a burn, and then there'd be like a menthol minty kick at the end of it that just like it puts out the
Okay.
fire and like boots you right behind the eyes.
Ah, you see, I wasn't thinking menthol, I was thinking more of a like a funk, an almost mushroomy, earthy funk more than a minty. To me, mint's clean. I don't know.
Hmm.
Let us know what you think.
Absolutely. Like, I mean, this is so off topic, but it's so on brand, and that's what we
Yes.
want.
Yeah.
And I think that's it for the first part of this segment, don't you?
I think
Unless we've
so.
got anything else to say on the Blades of the Hollow King, I think they're all pretty hot. Other than
Yeah.
Aurelius, who's probably he's just fronting.
Yeah, I take your point. Yeah, I mean, okay, he'll tell people that he likes Naga Viper, but he's at home with the honey mustard.
That's the one. And that's it for this episode of Warhammer and Wings, where the lore is deep and the wings are hot.
If you like the episode, hit that like button, drop us a comment with your spiciest take, and don't forget to follow us on socials for all things minis and marinades.
Until next time.